to another episode of Well-Adjusted Mama. I'm your host, Dr. Laura Brayton, and today we'll be focusing on fertility visualization with my guest, Molly Nichols. Molly is a mind-body fertility coach and leading fertility visual expert. She is the founder of Mind-Belly Connection, where she helps women worldwide suffering from infertility discover the deeper mental, emotional, and spiritual causes for their fertility struggles, so they can finally become pregnant and have the family they have always dreamed of. Molly helps women connect with a deeper sense of self, to heal from the past, and to unleash the powerful, fertile energy that lies within them. She is dedicated to honoring each woman where she is today on her journey towards pregnancy and motherhood, inspiring her to see all that is possible for the future of her family and her life. Molly's own personal 7-year fertility journey ended joyfully with the birth of her twins, who were conceived through IVF. Then 2 years later, to her great surprise, she found herself pregnant again, this time from natural conception. Molly is now the proud mama of 3 and dedicates both of her pregnancies to the use of fertility visualizations and the healing powers of the mind, body, and spirit connection. Techniques she now teaches and shares with thousands of women around the world. For more information about Molly, visit her website, mindbellyconnection.com. Welcome, Molly.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you today.
I am thrilled to have you on the show. I discovered you by listening to another podcast, The Fertility Revolution, and I heard your interview on that podcast, and I was so blown away by the power in what you're teaching women of how to utilize their greatest strength in their mind to help support their body in creating what they want in their life, in this case specifically a healthy pregnancy. So I'm thrilled to have you on my podcast now.
Yay! I'm glad to be here, and I'm super passionate about this topic, and so I'm happy to share it whenever I can.
Yes.
It's truly life-changing. Yeah.
Cool. So, can you just start off by telling us, what is fertility visualization?
Well, fertility visualization is really beginning to look at how your mind works and how your mind can support your fertility. Because I think our minds are actually one of our greatest and most powerful fertility tool, but I think that they are also the most unutilized or actually misused fertility tool. For many women, the first thing that we do when fertility struggles arise is that we begin looking outside of ourselves and begin adding things to our fertility regimen. So we begin changing our diet, acupuncture, charting our temperature, adding all these things, and we don't look inward first. And sometimes we're not even really clear on where we're trying to go. And fertility visualizations allow you to get clear on what you want from life, which is pregnancy, but also to give birth to a healthy baby. And it also helps you reconnect with your body, reconnect with your baby, reconnect with yourself, which for many of the women that I work with, because of our fertility journeys, we become really disconnected from what's happening to us. And we're just kind of going through the motions, and people are telling us, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do. And a lot of the information I feel that's also being shared is really disempowering to women, especially when it comes to age. And at the moment, when you turn 40, it's like the clicking, the clock is ticking. And I really don't believe that that's true. I think that each of us have our own journey, and that conception begins in our hearts. And if we have a loving desire and a strong desire within our hearts to have a child, that our child will find their way to us, but that they might come in a way that we didn't necessarily expect. So fertility visualizations really help you get clear in your mind on where you're going, what you want your life to look like with your baby in it, and also connecting to what does it feel like to be pregnant? What does it feel like to imagine that baby growing in your belly or to see your belly? For me on my journey, I only saw up to the pregnancy test. I just wanted to say those words so bad. I wanted to say, I'm pregnant to my husband. And I never saw beyond that. And I was working really, really fast and really hard. And the longer it took, the more disconnected I became. And it was, the first time I ever sat down and visualized, someone had given me a meditation thing to listen to. And I was so disconnected from my body that I couldn't even close my eyes. I was so afraid. And it was through that process of getting quiet, creating that space and time for my life, really looking at what is pregnancy, what do I believe it will feel like, and what I found is many of the women that I work with as well, sometimes we have some deeper things that are going on mentally, emotionally, spiritually, where there might be some fear around becoming pregnant. We may have some deep fears around maybe our baby's being born with perhaps a disability or different things. So when we close our eyes and imagine what we want, some scary things might come up. Or we're in that space of so much fear and worry that it can be a little scary to really allow yourself to dream and allow yourself to connect with that image. And fertility visualizations also allow you to connect with the energy, the spirit, the soul of your baby. So it's a really powerful tool, and I believe that every woman on their fertility journey, whether we're aware of it or not, we're always daydreaming. Our mind sees in pictures, and so we're always imagining what is going to happen. But for most of us on our fertility journeys, when we're in the deep throes of worry and years passing by, it's hard to put our energy towards what we want because we've already been so disappointed so many times. So it's really that powerful tool, and it takes a little courage and some vulnerability, but it's a transformational process if you allow yourself to really open up to it.
Yeah. Wow, it's so amazing. And you're really, you've been there. I mean, 7 years of, trying to get pregnant is really hard to fathom for a lot of people. And so you're an expert. I mean, you've been there. You've done it.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
For me, my story was that, I met my husband, and he is definitely my soulmate. And so my story was that I don't get to have a baby because all I really, I have had baby on the brain for a really long time, and I wanted to have a baby. I always knew I wanted to be a mother, and I thought, though, that because I had met my husband and I have, he's my soulmate, that maybe I can't have it all, because that was the story that I was told growing up, that, we have different programming and stories on you can have a little, but don't ask for too much. And I believe that God wants us to have all of our heart's desires, and it's where we're focusing our energy. And for me, over the years, it was definitely a worthiness issue, a fear of failure, and really allowing myself to open myself up and say, gosh, I am worthy of this. I'm worthy of having a child. I'm worthy of motherhood. And so are all of the women that are listening. You are worthy of being a mother. And it's our courage to look deeper, to go, okay, what are some of those underlying beliefs that we may have that even stem back from childhood? So,
wow, Molly, that's powerful. That just actually reminded me of my own personal story that I used to tell myself, that I was taught as a young child, that I could either be a successful businesswoman or be a mother, but really that it wasn't possible to do both. And the truth is that that's not true. That was a very powerful story that became my truth until I decided that it wasn't serving me anymore, and I wanted to create a different story.
Yeah, and that's a lot of the work I do too, is that our reality is created based on these stories or perceptions we have as to what is happening to us. And that in each new moment, we have a choice to change that story. And that's where I think it's interesting, talking about our minds and actually how they work. And that, we have 50 to 60,000 thoughts a day is what it said, the National Science Foundation says, and that 95% of those thoughts are the same as yesterday. So if we're not being active in really shifting our thinking, changing our thinking, and feeling actually that we have a choice in changing it, then we can be held victim to it. And so it's that awareness to look deeper, to go, oh my gosh, what are these, these underlying beliefs that we have that may, for you and I and for, I'd say, everyone, that they're there, and knowing that you don't have to be held victim to them, that you can change that story. So really powerful, amazing.
It is powerful, and, to your original point, our minds are one of our greatest and most powerful tools, period, to create whatever life we want, fertility and every other aspect of our life. So can you share a little bit more with us about how we can use our mind specifically to support fertility?
Absolutely. So the first thing is to get clear on, we just talked about and touched on stories, is to get clear on what are the stories that you're actually telling yourself about your fertility, or perhaps that you've been told about your fertility, that even go back to perhaps when you were a teenager. Many of our stories that we have, some of them stem back to something a doctor told us when we were really young, telling us that we're going to have problems getting pregnant. Perhaps it was someone had shared something about your womb, and now you have a story about your womb. So getting really clear on how you feel about your body. Do you have stories about your body? And what I recommend when you do this is to create a quiet space to do this in. Like to grab, journaling is a huge, powerful tool. It's one of my favorite things to suggest because it really, putting the pen to the paper, and, now we have our computers and our phones and different things that we can type on, but putting pen to paper is really, really powerful. So just looking at what are your stories, and then spending a little bit of quiet time and going, are those really true? And do you really feel like they resonate with you, or are they an older story? And then looking at, okay, what is the story that I want to live in? How can I make a new choice here? Looking at, is it true? And then bringing in the fertility visualizations, which, is painting that new picture. But with our mind, the reason why our mind is, one of the huge reasons why our mind is so powerful is that our mind is creating all of our choices for us in our decisions, whether we're aware of it or not. Our conscious mind can only think one thought at a time, but our subconscious mind is running things constantly. And when we're in that deep, fearful, and worried state, our mind is filled, or our bodies, because of our thoughts, are filled with anxiety. So we're under that extreme amount of stress, and that stress is affecting our bodies because one of the first things that shuts down when our body is in that stress response or fight or flight is our reproductive system. And I think it's, there's no way, I think, in today's world that we can stop all stress. It's just part of the world that we live in. But it's creating that space in your life to decompress, to de-stress, and to engage that relaxation response, which that's what happens when we are doing different mind-body things, relaxing, meditating, visualizing. So when we are visualizing, creating that time for ourselves, not only are we projecting what we want into the future, we're also allowing that relaxation response to be engaged, where our bodies can begin to heal, our hormones can balance, and we just begin to also see and experience things from a very different space. I think another thing that kind of disappears when we're in the throes of the fertility struggle is our intuition. And we as women are very intuitive, but all of a sudden we can't make decisions for ourselves. We're like, because we've been told so many things. So fertility visualizations and using our minds and really creating that space in our life to see what our truth, you spoke about your truth. It's like, what is your truth? Is this ringing true for me? And then you can move forward. It's going to physically help your fertility because, fertility visualizations are going to help your fertility physically because you're going to be engaging that relaxation response. But it's also going to impact your fertility because it's going to change perhaps the decisions that you're making moving forward. For me personally, I didn't think that I would be going through IVF. It wasn't something that I thought was going to happen, but it was through me getting quiet with myself. I was able to trust the decisions I was making moving forward to a point where I knew what day to transfer the embryos. I felt even though I wasn't 100% sure, I was grounded in the decision that I was making. And so really getting clear and clearing our mental space to be that serves us more of getting our minds quiet, even if it's just for a moment. Because we're flooded with that fear, we're flooded with that worry, and as I shared a moment ago, 90% of those thoughts are the same thoughts as yesterday. So it's really important that our mental and emotional well-being ends up being a top priority. Instead of sometimes ends up being that last resort, I guess I'll try this now, but I believe that it should be the first resort, so we're grounded in each decision that we're making, so we feel clear in it, so we don't go, gosh, because for a lot of women too, we're pushed into hurry up, rush, do something at this time, and then we go, gosh, I knew that wasn't going to work. I knew it wasn't the right time, but you couldn't trust yourself. And so really getting your mind clear, connecting with your body, and even connecting with your baby really it can impact your fertility on the physical, mental, emotional, and even spiritual level.
Yeah.
I hope that answered your question.
That was a powerful answer. I mean, because everything you're saying is completely correct, and it's really interesting to me that in our culture, especially in the United States, we're looking for so many outside-in approaches to our health when the truth is our bodies heal from the inside out. And let's utilize our amazing, powerful mind to help create that. We now know through neuroscience that our thoughts become a biochemical reaction within our brain and our body, and will actually change hormones and change our biochemistry. So if we're thinking the same negative, unconscious thoughts every day and not even being aware of them, it's going to create a chemistry in our body that matches that negative thought. And so we want to first become aware and conscious of our thoughts, and then secondly, create positive thoughts to change our positive chemistry.
Yeah, and when we talk about negative and positive thoughts and shifting your thoughts, one suggestion I always like to give is that this process of shifting and changing your thoughts should kind of be active all the time, not just when you're going through your cycle. So if you have a cycle coming up, because we sometimes, I think, I go to our culture too, that it's like we need to do whatever we can in that cycle, which I agree as well, but it's kind of when we're doing these things all the time, it's kind of the back door in, because when we're in our cycle, we're up against some of those deeper limiting thoughts and beliefs. So when we're doing it all the time, introducing those positive thoughts, as you said, it begins to really change. I mean, it changes your life. It really changes your life.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, very cool.
So this is, like you said, this is a lifestyle. This isn't just to do this action to create this outcome, i.e. positive pregnancy test. It's like, how can I create the most beautiful vessel to bring in a healthy conception, create a healthy pregnancy, healthy baby and birth. And that's so much more than just getting pregnant.
Yeah, and I think, also it goes to just like, who will we be as mothers? What will we teach our children if we are standing in the space of like really seeing and acknowledging like how incredible we are as women, giving ourselves that space and time and sharing that with our children and this different way of thinking, and how profound that will be for their lives and how they'll then show up as people in the world. So it's this chain reaction. That gives me goosebumps just talking about that as well.
Me too. I mean, it's really what you're saying is just being present. And this is if you're not pregnant yet, this is a great time to start practicing being present, because certainly after birthing a child, that's tested on an ongoing basis for the rest of your life, right, being a mother. So, wow, what a wonderful skill set to almost work on and develop, as you become a mother to help serve.
Yeah, I think I think one thing that we don't talk about a lot in the fertility space, and I don't know if you agree with this, is we don't talk about, there's not a lot of talk about birth in women who have struggled with infertility or what happens in motherhood. And for me specifically, when I became a mother, it was like I had put so much extra pressure on myself to be this perfect mother, to be this perfect parent, that it almost killed me. It was so intense. And so it was through that process of like going back to these foundational tools that I had and that I was able to move through that. So that we don't talk a lot about what comes after. Yeah.
Right. Certainly with people that are actively trying to get pregnant, there is so much focus on the actual pregnancy that in birth that a lot is kind of forgotten about what happens after the baby arrives. Where if there's not as much energy that has to go into the conception part, then, perhaps like you said, it's not, the energy might be different.
Yeah, I have made all these deals with God that I will never complain during my pregnancy. I will never complain as a parent. I will never, and I had twins.
Right.
So, but it was also, it's changed how I've shown up as a mother. And, the appreciation I have for my children, as I know all parents do. But yeah, so there's a lot of different aspects of this fertility journey. Great gifts that it gives, although you sometimes can't see it in the moment, but afterwards, my journey changed the course of my life, and I'm here talking to you today because of it. So,
right.
Even though it's hard to see at times, I do believe that there's a purpose for what your listeners are experiencing, even though that it's hard to see and acknowledge in the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very personal, it's very intimate, and this is really going beyond of whether someone is able to conceive or not. This is going to that deeper level that can be uncomfortable to go there sometimes. A lot of us want to not go there, but when we're having physical symptoms, in this case difficulty conceiving, then it's really an opportunity and a gift to go there and release those limiting beliefs that are not only impeding conception but are certainly going to impede in other areas of your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's really a lot of the foundation of my work is taking women to, they say peel back the layers of the onion, but I'm not a big fan of the onion, so I say peel back the the petals of the lotus flower. It's like really going deeper. And that a lot of times I have found that women who are deeply struggling, that there are, it is this deeper level of things going on underneath the surface, perhaps subconsciously, that we might not be aware of. And it takes courage to go there. But the transformation that happens when you do is there's no words to put on it. You just experience things from a completely different space.
Mm-hmm. Right. Wow. I'm curious to learn how you discovered fertility visualizations.
So I've always been a fan of visualization. It's funny, before I stepped into this work, I managed large luxury spas in Southern California. And I managed huge teams, and I would do I would lead my teams through visualization exercises like in our monthly meetings, which I look back and I find that to be so interesting. But I've always used visualization for different things in my life, but I never used it for my fertility. And I don't know, still to this day, I find it to be interesting that I never did. And I actually met a woman at a conference, and I would always tell the same story. I tell the same story over and over again, that I met my husband, that I really hope that I get pregnant, but there wasn't a lot of, the hope was kind of like, even the way I told the story. So there was an acupuncturist who was actually next to me at this convention I was at, the booth that we were hosting, and I waited all day to talk to her, and I was going to tell her my story and hope that she would give me a new piece of insight. And she looked me dead in the eye, and she said, "You don't believe that you're going to get pregnant. Because you need to embody this pregnant energy. You need to stand like you're pregnant. You need to look at the pregnant women, and for so many of us, the sight of another pregnant woman is enough to bring us to tears. So how do you begin seeing something outside of yourself instead of seeing it something painful as something that is actually available to you? And so that day, I was kind of like, what does she mean I don't believe I'm going to get pregnant? And for me, it was a deeper-rooted thing. And I went home and I began visualizing myself pregnant that day, and I did twice a day from then on. And at first I just visualized kind of the baby growing in my belly, in my hands. Like, what would it feel like to feel the baby moving around? Because as I shared at the beginning of our call today, that I only saw the thing I played out in my head over and over again was just telling my husband that I'm pregnant, like seeing the positive pregnancy test. I never saw beyond that. So when I started to connect with that image in my mind of what comes next, it was like my imagination just went wild, and I could then see my kids jumping on the bed, and all of it just changed, and then I could feel it in my body, and then I just knew. One way or another, I didn't know how, but I just could feel it, and it was so multifaceted that it was like I connected with my body and really connecting and getting clear on what I really wanted and what that would feel like, what that experience was like, without any of the chatter of telling me that it wasn't possible. It was just like clear time. I set for myself, and it happened rapidly. I mean, I was pregnant, I think within 2 months after 7 years.
That was my next question. Yeah. I love it. I mean, this is just such a clear cause and effect. You realized, you became conscious of your block to believing that you could be pregnant, and once that was removed, your body said, okay, let's do this.
Yeah, and I think that it was, then afterwards, I was actually preparing. So then once I had my twins, I started thinking, like, why did no one tell me this? And what I realized is in 7 years, no one had ever asked me about my emotional well-being. No one had ever asked me about my stress levels. No one ever asked me about even my deeper relationship with myself. Like, no one had asked that. It was all about what I needed to do. Take this, do this, It wasn't about connecting with myself. And through that, that's where, I stepped into this work, started sharing in workshops and different things, and women started having similar results of, getting pregnant. And it's so much deeper, as you shared as well. It's so much deeper than just getting pregnant. It's really this healing journey, like on the deeper level of like sense of self and soul. And it's really so much deeper than that, and stepping into our worthiness. And through that, it was just like this whole thing has just grown and grown and grown, and seeing the transformation that's happening in other women's lives, that they're seeing and feeling possibilities for perhaps the first time in their life, that it actually is possible for them to be a mother, no matter what they've been told. And they trust themselves, and, that's a gift. If I could tell you how many women I work with who have been told they're in their 40s, their body's breaking down, they won't get pregnant naturally, or that they've been told that there's no way of them getting pregnant, even younger women, because of some physical issue that they have, and they're giving birth to healthy babies. So it's our truth, no matter what we've been told outside of ourselves.
Right. And the body has an amazing ability to heal itself. No matter what diagnosis or physical condition you're told you have, if you're ready to release that and change it and think differently, instead of having that label of like PCOS or other endometriosis, then it's like, no, I don't have to have a diagnosis label me and create a challenge. I can actually love and nurture my body and help it heal, and therefore it's capable of doing anything.
Yeah, and that's where, too, it's like to be aware of, if you do have one of these conditions, that you become aware of how you see your reproductive system because of it. A lot of women that I work with have we're having kind of a dark mental image because they've been diagnosed. I don't know if you have the same thing with the women that you work with, where they see, because have PCOS or endometriosis or have had polyps removed or anything, that they see their womb as a dark space. So I would say that, one of the first things to do is just to welcome love into that space. Put your hands on your belly and welcome loving energy, white light into your womb and see
white light.
See what happens. White, loving light. Yeah.
Yeah, how is it possible to conceive a healthy pregnancy in a dark, damp, sick place, right? If we're told the womb is sick and not working properly, why would it want to allow conception, So our bodies are very smart. I don't think we give them enough credit sometimes. And if there isn't, and even that goes back to miscarriages. If there's a reason why a healthy pregnancy hasn't occurred, then the body is smart to discard this embryo that's not able to function normally. So this is something that we really just need to remember to trust, that our bodies are very intelligent.
Yeah, and I totally agree, and that it's using our minds to get clear on what are the thoughts that you have about yourself, about your body, and even about your baby, and connecting. Another piece of my work is that I'm diving more into is this connection with the soul and the energy or the spirit of our baby, whatever resonates with each person individually. But really looking at welcoming them into your life, talking to them, communicating with them. The first time one of my clients did a visualization where I leave space at the end of the visualization for them to connect with their baby, just to share what's on their heart. And at first she thought it was like a little bit silly, but then once she started talking to them, she realized how much she had to say. And I think that that's just opening up that communication in whatever belief or whatever way resonates with you, but that looking at, connecting with your baby, and then when you get pregnant, you've already cultivated this connection, and you continue the communication and the connection until your baby's born.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
And forever. Actually.
Yeah, forever. Yeah. But I think there's sometimes it can feel like there's this disconnection. I think especially if you're going through fertility treatments and stuff, it's like it's happening outside of yourself, but even if it's happening outside of yourself, when the embryo is in there, it's in there, the two of you together, and cultivating that relationship in whatever way feels comfortable to you. That mind, body, and spirit of your baby connection.
Mhm. I was reading an article in Pathways to Family Wellness, which is one of my favorite holistic parenting magazines, and it told the story of a tribe in Africa where before a woman conceives, she sits under a tree and listens for the song of her child. At a spirit level, and when she hears the song, then she knows that now she's physically able to conceive. She will then go to her partner and they will conceive the baby. After she knows the song, she will sing the song during conception, teach the partner the song, teach the community the song, the village. So this child is hearing their song over and over during the pregnancy, during the birth, when they're growing up. And if that child, as they get older, is not cooperating at a community level, then the tribe will surround that child and sing them their song to remind them who they are. Mm-hmm. And it was such a beautiful story. It's like, this is really what life is about, right? And it's like, holy crap, when we deviate from what's good, it's because we forget who we are. But when our community reminds us of really who we are at that soul level, and in this case, this is through singing this specific song that is unique to that individual person, then that reminder is like at the nervous system level, they're reminded, wow, this is who I am, and I, want to be a part of this. So I just thought that was so beautiful that this is possible. This goes back to that visualizing. But, when you're doing this meditation and visualization, messages will come through. And this is something that you can continue to do with your child during the pregnancy. You can talk to them. You can speak to them. and really communicate, at many levels. I think it's so amazing. And we now know that children do recognize voices, after they're born. They recognize mom and dad and anyone else who's connected with them verbally while they were in the womb.
Yeah, that was so beautiful what you just shared. It's like it gets my mind going, like just so profound that we're moving so fast. All of us are moving so fast, and it's our ability to slow down and to connect and to tune inward, and that when we have this connection with our babies, with my twins, I was connected to them, but not. I still had a lot of fear and worry because I was so afraid, especially because I had a twin pregnancy and I was being told all the time that I was high risk. So I had a lot of different thoughts about that. But with my daughter, the connection we had was so deep is that even things were happening, getting close to birth, and the birth didn't go the way that I had planned, but I was so connected with her. We were almost in sync where we knew what the best choice for us was.
Yeah.
So it supports you through pregnancy and through birth and into motherhood. And I think just, the singing of the song, reminding our souls of who we are, that's deep and amazing.
Isn't that an
so
amazing
profound?
Story?
It is.
When I read it, I was in tears. I was like, and this is, and this is happening, nowadays, but in obviously a very different culture than the United States, where can be so disconnected. And so, we can learn a lot from some indigenous cultures that have really respect the mind-body connection and respect the interconnectedness amongst all of us, not just the mother and the baby, but really at a tribal, global community level, that all of our actions will have a reaction, not just with ourselves, but everyone around us. And, when we have that constant reminder, then we make better choices.
Yeah, and we can stand in our own value and our own truth. And it is that the first thing I recommend to people is like create a space in your home that you love to just like sit and journal and to get quiet. Like the first thing, whatever level is comfortable to you, and just to connect with yourself and just acknowledge, is it uncomfortable? It's just like slowing down. And it's like, I feel like that's just, that simple step is the gateway into, the creating and manifesting the life of your dreams with your children, but even beyond that.
Yeah. Right. I think we can be so busy, so fight or flight, this pretend lion is chasing us, that there's, part of it is just the society that we live in, and there's a lot of demands on us for sure. But I think secondly, we also almost, especially as women, can create this sense of urgency that everything has to get done so quickly. We have to take care of everyone. And that's actually a distraction, and it's also an excuse to not go to that deeper level, like I mentioned earlier, that can actually be uncomfortable. To do sometimes that deeper work on ourselves, it requires that space, and it's not easy. And so instead, it's easier to sometimes distract and be busy.
Yeah, and that's definitely what my journey was filled with. Work harder, work faster, work longer hours. Just every time there was a disappointment that came up, or that I felt like a failure, because failure, perfectionism and type A. It was like do, and then it's that courage to get quiet, and that space to be vulnerable, to peel back the layers, and that you will. For many of the women I work with as well, it's like through this work of really transforming your thinking, realizing, painting a picture of what you really want in life, and then when you create this quiet time and your intuition becomes heightened and you just show up differently, the people around you show up differently too. Your doctors respond to you differently, your partner responds to you differently, you're responding differently, and it just kind of organically happens. And so it's just through creating this, I like to start, you mentioned presence, but the first, I keep saying first because there's like this, I always do like my first session with someone is like connecting with your womb, creating space in your life and finding presence. And doing things without your cell phone and disconnecting from technology and, reconnecting with your partner. And what is it like to actually have a meal with someone where nobody's on their cell phones or updating their Facebook? It's just you and that person and connecting on that, that soul level with your partner or the other people in your lives. And what would our life be if we actually felt connected? I think that the internet and different things, Facebook and all these different things create this false sense of connection. And so we're always trying to connect with other people, in this virtual world, but it's the people in our lives that, that we're sitting next to and, connecting with those people and to know that, cultivating and supporting those relationships through presence and presence with yourself and presence with the people in your lives.
Right. I mean, that is really, that's living a full life is really about connection. As humans, that's one of our needs is to be connected to others. And to your point, technology can really create some disconnect if we allow it. So we can really choose to unplug and really connect to people in our life that we love and care about. And that is going to really create such a deeper, nurturing relationship. And it can really make huge changes, whether it's, like you said, with an intimate partner or a child, friends, family members, whoever it is. And actually, honestly, I'm going to go even to another level. What about connecting with the stranger that you pass on the street? I live in the New York City area, and we can all be so busy texting, emailing, and I get it, things need to be done. But, you can do that when you're at your office, and you can really zone in and have that time to do that. But when you're out and about, why not smile and connect with a stranger for 1 or 2 seconds? Like, that can really cause such a shift in that person's day and their life that it's such a gift that you can give, and it's so simple and easy. But if you're looking down at your cell phone, then that connection will never happen.
Totally, and knowing that I totally agree with you, just smiling at someone. One of the things I always suggest to my clients is, like, just try going to the grocery store without your cell phone. Like, that's what, and see, because I'm not going to sit here and say that my phone isn't with me all the time, and then I'm not hooked up in some way. My business is virtual, and so I'm hooked up a lot of the time. So I have to actually make a very conscious effort to be present with my children, with my husband. It takes, you have to be conscious with it because it's so part of, our culture.
Right.
And so, so it's, I would say try going to the grocery store and just taking in the people around you, the scenery. What do you smell? What do you hear? And just it's such a sensory experience happening around us, but we're all looking down. My sister owns a salon, and I was at her salon, and I'm having a conversation with several of the people that work there, and I ask a question, and we're talking, and next thing you know, I keep talking, and no one now is listening to me because they're all looking for the picture of what we just talked about on YouTube or on Facebook, so it's like this, everyone has to go to show you, there's your imagination, we need to allow a little bit of imagination to go in there too, that everything doesn't need to be shown in pictures or YouTube videos or, all the time.
Right, that's right. And so that was kind of one of my last questions to you is fertility visualization into, a woman's life. How she can create that as her lifestyle. One way we said is just leaving your cell phone at home, for an hour while you run errands, or creating a space in your home to start journaling. Anything else that you can recommend?
Yeah, so the first thing that I keep saying first thing, these are all my top priorities, so that's why I keep saying first thing, but it's to commit and set an intention for yourself on how much time that you're willing to commit to yourself right now in your life. And I think in the beginning when we do something new, we get really excited about it. So we're like, I'm going to do an hour a day. but you want to set yourself up for success. So what in your current lifestyle and where you're at today are you comfortable with? How much time, quiet time, can you commit to yourself? Now, when I say quiet time, it can be visualization time, but it can simply be listening to relaxing music with your headphones in. Just setting time for your body to decompress. A lot of times you'll find if you've been moving really fast, you'll fall asleep in the beginning because your body just needs to sleep. And if that's the case, that's totally okay as well. Next is, I shared creative space, but you can also create a ritual or a routine around, connecting with your baby, doing visualizations, whatever that is for you. What I do like to recommend is that when you begin a visualization process, to do it first thing in the morning before you go out of bed. I'm not sure if you've heard of the book, The Silva Method.
No.
So it's about visualization and different things. It's an amazing book written by Jose Silva. And he says that the best time of day actually to visualize is first thing in the morning because our alpha brainwaves are really active at that time. And then our beta brainwaves are active in the middle of the day. And when our beta brainwaves are active, it's really hard for us to get our imagination going because we've got our rational thinking is more prominent in the middle of the day. So creating that routine perhaps right before you get out of bed, just focusing on connecting with the spirit or energy of your baby, connecting with the image you have in your mind of what you want your life to look like when you have your baby or yourself, seeing yourself pregnant. And welcoming love into your body and into your mind and into your womb. Love is such a powerful energy, and the way that I always describe it is I like to just close my eyes, to take a couple deep breaths and see this waterfall of love's white light just cascading down over your entire body and just seeing it fill up from the bottoms of your feet, to the top of your head, and just seeing it. Just having that intention to start your day is going to be very different than waking up in the morning with all the to-dos and the worries about what might happen today. And just starting in that energy is just beginning your day like that is really powerful. And just is the first steps in beginning to transform that energy that you're moving through your life with.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, so it's creating that time and space for yourself to connect with yourself, and through this process you begin to trust yourself. I speak to women a lot, and when I talk about my programs or different things I'm doing, they're like, and I was like, well, what does your heart say? What are you feeling? And they're like, I don't know what my heart is saying. I can't trust it because I feel so disconnected from my heart or from my body that my intuition I feel like it's not working. And so I just say, well, close your eyes right now, and what is your heart saying? And it'll be either yes or maybe. But knowing that the more you tune in, the more you connect with yourself, the more you'll feel grounded in the choices and decisions that you're making, even if you're not 100% sure. And you'll start to perceive what's happening differently because you're not spending the worry, fear of what might not happen, preparing for disappointment. You're allowing yourself to be even more hopeful and shifting the direction of the energy that you're projecting out there, because our minds want to make us right. And so we're always collecting evidence to make ourselves right based on our perceptions of things. So if we're perceiving that we're too old or our bodies are broken, we're going to find evidence that's going to make us right. But if we shift our thinking and we shift our energy to that of, we're going to see ourselves, our bodies whole and complete, our reproductive system's whole and complete, that we are worthy no matter what our diagnosis is, we're going to start to see more evidence of that is going to show up in our life. And we're going to see possibilities that perhaps we didn't see before that were right in front of us because that's not what we were looking for.
So true. Wow. I love that. Molly, I love your passion and your enthusiasm for empowering women, because that's really what this is about. It's not about having someone fix you because you're broken. Mm-hmm. It's recognizing that you're already whole and complete, and it's really having that shift in the mindset that anything is possible. And, when we really believe that we can have what we deserve, then everything will line up. The universe, so to speak, will show up with all of the resources that are necessary to create that life.
Amen. Amen to that. Absolutely. And everything, miracles happen. The thing that I would say is miracles happen every day, and that your miracle may be just around the corner. And that's the truth, that miracles happen. Women are told all the time that they cannot get pregnant, yet they're giving birth to healthy babies. Yeah. So it's miracles happen all the time. So no matter where you're at today or what you've been told, connect with your heart, with your truth, and that's where you'll find your answers. Mm-hmm. And then you can then show up in partnership with your medical professionals, because they're still there to support you. And our babies come in different ways, whether that be IVF or naturally or egg donation or embryo donation, sperm donation, whatever it is. But we'll get clear on how they're going to come to us, and that I believe that babies are supposed to come from all of those different avenues. They're supposed to come from IVF, naturally, egg donation, all those things. The spirit of your child is supposed to come to you in the way that they're going to come to you, but it's being open to them coming in the way that they're being called to as well. So.
Mhm. That's true.
And you see, I can talk about this stuff forever. Yeah. I get so excited talking about it.
Well, Molly, I just wanted to close this interview with having you share with women, if they want to learn more about how they can work with you, please tell us what you have available.
Absolutely. So I do one-on-one fertility visualization coaching, where we move through a session where I guide you through one-on-one visualizations, kind of an energy network in that, as well as we do some coaching around what you're struggling with, what your fears and worries are. So I do one-on-one work like that. And then I also offer a program called the Fertility Visualization Bootcamp. It's called Believe Fertility Visualization Bootcamp, and it goes through a lot of the process of the things that we talked about today. So if you are interested in those things or working with me, you can check out my website at mindbellyconnection.com, or you can email me directly at mnichols@mindbellyconnection.com. And even if you have questions, this is my work, my life's work now, my passion, besides being a mother. And so I'm here to support, here to help. And if you have questions, you can reach out to me, and I'd be happy to support you in finding guidance as to what might be best for you on your journey as well.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Thank you Thank you so much for coming and sharing this passion. But also, I really think that there's a lot of hope in this message, and that's what I'm hoping women are hearing. That the sky is the limit, anything is possible, and if you're in a place where you're really feeling, you're struggling, then please, reach out to Molly and get some assistance, because it's really about, we all can benefit from coaches and mentors, and just having a different perspective of what our thoughts are. Sometimes we're so deeply embedded, it's hard to see our own stuff. And so working with a coach can help open our eyes and become more conscious of where we need to do our work, so that we can then, create a shift.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for what you're doing and sharing this message. I feel so blessed and absolutely honored to be here, to be able to share this with your audience. And there is so much hope. No matter what you've been told, there is so much hope for you. And one final thought is, there's this woman who I've recently been talking with, and she's a pre-birth communication expert. And what she was saying is that perhaps your baby was always supposed to come at the time that they're going to come. That they weren't supposed to come. For me, that my twins weren't supposed to come 7 years earlier. They were supposed to come when they were supposed to come, based on where I was going to be at in my life. And so perhaps your baby, it has always, the schedule that they have is absolutely perfect. That there isn't anything wrong, that everything is as it should be. And that it's your desire to go deeper, to get to know yourself better, to transform into the best possible version of yourself. And then you can translate that to your child so they can do the same.
It's so true. There is a larger plan, a divine plan, and a lot of times it may not be what our original plan is, and we get so stuck on that. We're like, well, that's not what I want, but we don't know. We don't have all the information, so we are very much guided and protected, and there is a divine timing and order to things.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here, and I hope that this conversation inspires the women to know that there's hope.
Yes.
And that your baby is maybe on their way. They're just waiting for the perfect time.
Yeah. Thanks again, Molly.
Thank you.